I'm Nurul Nordin from UMPSP Lab, the Faculty of Electrical Electronics Engineering, University Malaysia Pahang Al Sultan Abdullah, the instructor for this course.
Welcome to Chapter 3, Headless Setup, of our micro-credential course on Raspberry Pi installation and configuration. A headless setup means running Raspberry Pi without a monitor, keyboard or mouse. Instead, you access and remotely using SSH or VNC. To do this, we will need real VNC. So, what is a real VNC viewer? Real VNC Viewer provides a seamless way to remotely access and control your Raspberry Pi. So it allows you to remotely control, manage your Raspberry Pi from wherever without needing a physical monitor, keyboard or a mouse. It gives you an easy access whereby you can connect with multiple devices, including PC, Mac and even smartphones, making it highly flexible. And it supports secure connection. Real VNC ensures encrypted and secure remote access, keeping your data and system safe. With Real VNC, working with your Raspberry Pi becomes more convenient and efficient. Let's explore how to set it up. VNC or Virtual Network Computing operates by transmitting screen data from the Raspberry Pi, which acts as the server, to a remote device running the viewer. At the same time, it allows real-time input control, meaning to say, you can interact with your Raspberry Pi just as if you are using it directly. When you move the mouse, type on the keyboard or execute command, the actions are sent back to the Raspberry Pi over the network. Before setting up Real VNC, let's go over the essential requirements. First, the hardware requirements. You will need a Raspberry Pi running Raspberry Pi OS, a power supply, and a micro SD card with the OS installed. For the initial setup, a monitor, keyboard and mouse are required to configure the system. Next is the software requirement. Real VNC server comes pre-installed with Raspbian, so no extra installation is needed. On the device you'll be connecting from, you will need to download and install Real VNC Viewer from the Real VNC website. Finally, network connectivity. For the initial connection, both Raspberry Pi and the viewing device, whether a Mac, PC or a smartphone, must be on the same network, same wireless access point. Once configured, you can enable cloud access to connect from anywhere. With this in place, you are ready to set up Real VNC and take control of your Raspberry Pi remotely. To connect your Raspberry Pi using Real VNC Viewer, you first need to find its IP address. Starting by opening the terminal on your Raspberry Pi. Next, type the following command: hostname-l. The command will display IP address of your Raspberry Pi. Make sure to note down this IP address. You will need it when connecting from Real VNC Viewer on your PC, Mac or smartphone. With the IP address, you are now set to establish a remote connection. To enable remote access, you need to configure your Raspberry Pi setting. First, open the Raspberry Pi configuration tool. You can do this by navigating the preference menu on the desktop or by entering the command sudo raspi config in the terminal. Next, go to the Interfaces tab. Here, you will find options to enable SSH and VNC. Turn both on to allow remote access. SSH enables secure command line access, while VNC allows full remote desktop control. Once enabled, click OK and restart your Raspberry Pi to apply the changes. Now let's have a look on how to set up Real VNC Viewer. First, download Real VNC Viewer. You can do this by going to the Real VNC website, https://www.realvnc.com. Then download and install Real VNC Viewer for your operating system, Windows, macOS, Linux, Android or iOS. Once you have downloaded and installed, make a new connection. Now, when you click this new connection, you will be asked to include this IP address or hostname. Write that inside this bar. Once done, click OK. In the address bar, enter the IP address of your Raspberry Pi. To connect with the Raspberry Pi, enter connection details. Enter the IP address of the Raspberry Pi in the real VNC viewer and click connect. A security warning may appear. Click continue to proceed. Step number 2, authentication. Enter the Raspberry Pi username. Default is Pi. Unless you change, you can use this default name. And password default is Raspberry unless change. So now you can have your Raspberry Pi to be controlled remotely. Step number 2 is the authentication. Enter the Raspberry Pi username. Default is Raspberry Pi. Next is the authentication step. Enter the Raspberry Pi's username. Default is Pi. And password default is Raspberry unless change. Click OK to connect. Sometimes you may face troubles, and to troubleshoot some of the common issues. Troubleshooting common issues in establishing this virtual network. Sometimes VNC server is not enabled. So recheck the setting in Rasp config. Secondly, which is most common, is incorrect IP address. Ensure the IP address is correct and the Raspberry Pi is on the same network.